Today I'm going to talk to you about how to make these neat little wool balls from wool yarn. And let's get started. So when I started wanting to make these balls, I watched a lot of tutorials and I tried them out, and I ended up with, every time I would try to create one, I'd have these huge cracks, as you can see there. And it was driving me crazy because I couldn't seem to get rid of it. And I even bought like a needle felting kit trying to get rid of these little cracks. And then, as you can see, these are kind of fuzzy because I put them in the nylon stocking and threw them in the washing machine, and then and then in the dryer, and they came out all icky like this, and they're not very round, and it was very frustrating. So I tried a lot, played around a lot, and finally came up with a technique that works 100% of the time. Let's talk about what you're going to need. To start, you need 100% wool yarn. Now, I'm using K&C Nordic in this tutorial. This is from Joann Fabric, and I like it a lot. It works really well. I've also used Pixel. It's a little tougher to do this with, but it still works. You need to make sure your wool yarn is 100% wool. A lot of the yarns that say wool yarn are not 100% wool. You have to look. You also want it to be thick. This method doesn't work for yarns that are thinner like this. There is a way to make felt balls with this type of yarn, and I will do another tutorial on that because it's slightly different. You also cannot use yarn that says it is superwash. It's kind of a thing. Superwash is treated, so they basically change the wool a little bit so it won't felt or shrink in the wash, and we need it to shrink and felt, so don't use superwash. You are also going to need no rinse wool soap. This is Knit IQ. I got off of Amazon. I think it was like the cheapest one on Amazon, and it works really well. I like it. A bamboo sushi mat. I got, again, off of Amazon. I used the rougher side of the two. This is kind of smooth. I use this side because you need that friction to agitate it. I tried using bubble wrap once and I didn't like how it worked. It didn't seem to agitate it enough, so I don't use the bubble wrap. But if you have something kind of similar that won't catch the threads but will kind of give it rough, you can try it. You're going to need a lingerie mesh bag that you can throw into your dryer. You're going to need, I use a Dawn bottle for my soapy water, or just something that has like a little bit of a spout. I like the Dawn bottle because I can actually microwave it for like 30 seconds and it doesn't distort or anything. And so I can warm up the water when I'm ready to use it, and I can cap it off when I'm not. You're going to need a mug of hot water, a pair of tongs or a fork or something that you can use because you're going to end up dropping the balls into the water, so you need to be able to fit it in there and get it out without getting a lot of the water. And you're going to need a towel. So I'm going to get everything prepared and we can begin. So to start, what you're going to do is you're going to measure out about 6 feet of yarn, or 5 grams. When I started doing this, I basically weighed the yarn until I figured out how big I wanted it to be, and it ended up with like 6 feet. And that will give you a ball that's about, about 1.5 inches to 1.25 inches round. It kind of varies in size a little bit depending on how much you put pressure and how much felt and how much squish they have. So if you're really big on needing to make consistent balls, then you basically just have to watch when you're felting it, because you can, if you put more pressure on it, you'll make it tighter and it'll make it smaller or larger. So. And you're going to take the end and you're going to separate it. And then wrap each side around your hand, and the trick is to let your yarn twist. So hide the cats if you got them, because you need it to twist out so it doesn't get tight. And this is really hard to do because you kind of need a little bit of space. I usually do this standing up and let it drop all the way to the ground. So I need it all to twist. You need it to twist like that. And the more you let it twist, come on, twist. So usually because it's hanging down, it goes this fast. So because I couldn't let it twist as much, it looked like it wasn't doing it very well. It doesn't do it. So you got to stand up and do it. But then you kind of get this little mess. This does not generally tangle. It just gets all twisted. But you can untwist it, kind of just let it. And then you're going to take this and you're going to just take your hand and just pull it through, so you're kind of relaxing this. And what you're actually doing here is you're straightening out the strands of wool in the yarn. And this is a way of doing that. And I'll do it all the way down. And then I'll just kind of, you don't have to worry about this tangling. It doesn't tangle like some things would. I do the same thing with the other strand. And if you don't, you can do it just a few times. If you don't do it enough, it's okay, because you can do it more later. And you kind of see the difference between it doesn't actually look that much different. But you see how this is laying down and this is kind of balled up, and see how this is like really twisted, but this is much, I think that's what you want it to look like. And if you get two different colors, if you want to make like a multicolored ball like this, you can actually take one strand from one ball of yarn and one strand from the other. And then we're going to just kind of tuff it. And what you just do is you just pull it and see how that kind of separates. And the trick is you should just be able to pull gently. If you start pulling and you get resistance, it's because it's twisted. Just twist your hands a little bit and it'll go like that. So you see I kind of like will twist automatically. It's like a habit because it just makes it easier. You don't need to pull real hard. Sometimes you can really pull real hard and just separate it, but you just want to separate the strands, and you're getting about, this is about like 4 or 5 inches long. And if it starts to get like really thin, just go like this again. And this should go really quickly. Just keep doing this. And you do it with the other one too. I don't worry about the size. I just will sit there and I like to do this sitting watching TV. So what I often do was I'll have like these little sandwich bags, and I'll just throw each one I'll do 6 feet and throw it in there, and then I'll just have a bunch of bags ready to go. And you see, it does not, once you get going, it doesn't take very long. And you don't have to worry about keeping these strands straight or anything, because it'll all be okay. So there we go. So we got basically like this. And then you kind of comb through your fingers through it, or you can, because you want it to look more wispy. Sometimes I'll just take a metal comb and I don't try to comb through the fibers too much. I don't want to like pull loose fibers out. I just want to kind of get it separated. So you can do that. So it kind of all looks wispy. If you don't have a comb, this step isn't necessary, but it just will make things go a little bit faster the next step. So now you're ready to start your wet felting. So I have my towel, my bamboo mat, my soap. I've kind of warmed up my Dawn thing, so it's not like hot, it's just like warm. And then I also have like just some kind of dish that I can put the balls in after I make them, before I do the next step. So, because I usually will do like 5 or 6 at a time, sometimes more. So it's helpful if you have like a bunch of this ready to go. Okay, so you're going to take your wool, and I always try to grab like the longest strands, and I'll grab just about a fourth or a third of it. Can you see? A little bit more than that. And I want to make this into a kind of a strand here, and I'm going to make just a knot. This does not have to be perfect. Don't worry if you kind of lose strands. It's all going to be in the same spot. So now you kind of have like a nice little base. Then, and it can help if you have like a little cup, because this part is a little bit, just so it doesn't roll off into you. And I'm going to kind of knead this. And sometimes for this step, I'll add a little bit of soap too, because, oh, that was way more soap than I needed, but. And kind of roll it in my hands until I get something like this. Don't worry about these cracks. You're gonna see lots of cracks, but then you can kind of roll it on here a little bit more until you get a kind of a nice roundish ball. I have soap all in my hands now. Okay, then you're gonna take your wool, and you wanna make little small wispy pieces. And I'll take a bunch of them and I'll put them around the side of my mat. I'll show you why in a minute. And then I will roll this, and then I will just kind of grab one of the pieces and just roll it into my yarn. And you'll see it kind of looks like that. And then as a little bit more water, and roll it, and then I'll grab some more. And roll it. And I'm not putting any pressure on this ball. I'm just enough to kind of feel it on my hand. So, okay, that should be enough so that I kind of make sure when it feels dry, you'll feel it under your hand. So you can see I can feel I'll add just a little bit more water. Not a lot, you don't need to soak it. If you soak it, it's not going to hurt it, but just enough to kind of keep it moist. And then I add more wispiness. Add more wispiness. Keep rolling. You don't have to worry too much about the shape or anything right now. You're just adding the yarn, and you just you keep doing this. You're just rolling it to kind of include the pieces. And once you kind of see they're kind of meshed in, you add more. Okay, so I have all this ready. And if I sometimes, if you can grab the bigger pieces, you run the risk of it possibly, having more of a crack, because of the big piece. So if I'm doing it that way, I only do it in the very beginning because I know I'm going to cover it up, and I try to make sure that the last few pieces are especially wispy because they don't crack. I don't know if crack's the right word for it, but it looks like a crack in the ball. As you kind of see, look, and I'll just add a little bit more water. And essentially, like in the Dawn bottle, like I will probably fill it up here and maybe put 2 squirts of the soap in there. You want it to be kind of sudsy. See there, you can see little suds, but you don't want it to be too sudsy. And if you don't see any suds at all, it's too, you need more soap. You won't hurt anything by having too much soap. But if you don't have enough soap, you're not going to get, it's like, soap is kind of like the glue to this. And I'm rolling it. And then once you get all of it done, you kind of want to roll it a little bit more. I'm going to put a little bit more pressure on it because I need it to be, I don't want anything too loose for the next step. So I'm just like putting like, so where you normally are, I'm not putting really any pressure on it. Now I'm just putting a little bit, just barely any pressure to just kind of help encourage the feltiness. And once you get it kind of looking like this, you're ready for the next step, which involves getting the mug of hot water. Okay, I now have my mug of hot water, and this is very hot. Don't burn yourself. Normally, when I make hot chocolate, I will put my mug in with cold milk for about 1.5 minutes. When I'm doing this, I will put it in there for 3 to 4 minutes, and I'm gonna pull it out. Sometimes it's boiling, and that's okay, as long as you don't burn yourself. So you have to be careful, and this down a little bit. You can see what okay. So I take my ball. I don't want to be careful so you don't drop and splash it, but I'm going to make sure it's submerged all the way into the hot water for just like 10, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. And then when you get it out, it's going to be really, see how this is really smushy? It's really, like really soft. So I'm not going to put barely any pressure, and I'm going to move my hand fast so that the hot water does not burn my hand. This is like running your finger through a candle flame kind of idea, and it will get cool very quickly and so once it cools down, then you can start putting more pressure on. And you'll see how now it's not so soft. And so I can start putting more pressure on. If you put pressure too soon, you'll just kind of push the wool off the ball. So you just kind of need to wait a little bit. And now I'm putting even more pressure. So I'm kind of squishing the ball a little bit. I don't worry too much about shape right now. I'll kind of, and sometimes it's better not to just like do like a circle like this, but kind of move your hand in different motions, like ovals and up and back and down and then around, and you'll get more of a round ball. But even if you don't, when you pick it up, just go like, you can get it a little bit rounder. This is not the final step. So now I'm going to test and kind of see if my ball is ready by dropping it back into the water, dunking it down, pulling it back out, and see how it's not so squishy? So this ball is ready. I'll roll it around just a little bit. When you drop it in the water and it doesn't come out really, like the top part is like really, really soft, then you know it's ready to go to the next step. And so you can kind of see you can feel it's firm. You can see that kind of the felting going on. You don't have to worry about if it's a perfectly round ball, but if it's not, go in your hand a little bit and you can fix it. Then you're going to take your kind of mesh bag. And you see I already have some ready to go. And drop it in the bag. Now these, when it's in this process, when you put the ball into the bag here, You'll see I have a bunch other balls ready to go. This can sit for a couple of days. It's not like you have to, the next step has to be done immediately. What I will do is I will get a bunch ready to go. I fill this bag up so it's about half full. And then when I'm ready to put it in the dryer, I will rinse my balls. I will take the balls under the faucet. I will rinse them, try to get some of the soap out. I don't squeeze them or anything, but I just kind of really make sure that they get really well rinsed, a couple minutes. Then with the balls soaking wet, I'm going to put this in the dryer with a load of laundry. Preferably a load of laundry that's on high heat, but it should be at least on medium heat. And let it be in the dryer. I've never had issues with because the color's running. And the laundry itself is necessary for this process because you need that kind of agitation and you need this to be have things in there that kind of help make it round and felt. So if you don't have laundry or you're just afraid to put this with your laundry, then get some like old towels or old jeans to put in there with it so that you have something in there than just this bag of balls. You're going to put this in the dryer I usually do it one cycle, and when you pull it out, they're still going to be slightly wet. And I'm actually going to go put these in the dryer and I'll come back when they're done. I just got these out of the dryer and they're still wet. I can feel them, they feel damp. You don't throw them in the dryer to get them dry. You throw them in the dryer to basically just kind of make them a little bit more felt and secure. So throw it in the dryer so that you don't have to like roll them around all the time. And I will leave these. I have another mesh bag. I'll throw these in and leave them sit out until they are totally dry. And then once they are dry, you can throw them in like a little jar with catnip in, and the smell of the catnip will infuse the wool, and they're ready for your cat to play with. And that's it. You're done.